How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I am happy to have you. We got boy, do we have a ton of stuff to cover today. And we need to begin with an update on the Hamas, Hezbollah, Israel situation. So I can bring you a greater depth how Israel pulled off the gender sex change operation for Hezbollah. On the sixth day, God created man and made him male and female. And in one day, Israel turned all the men into women, or eunuchs at least. Wow. They went from being Almond Joy bars to Mounds bars. Almond Joy got nuts, Mounds don't, or Hezbollah for that matter. Goodness gracious. The jokes write themselves on this. A lot of goats in Lebanon marked safe from Hezbollah today. Okay, so here, yes, I did just say that on radio, didn't I? Sorry. All right, here's what we now know. So the speculation yesterday from people I talked to was that this could have been, given the lack of deaths, just a bomb essentially generated by steam explosion that you can cause the batteries to overheat. And if they overheat rapidly enough, a lithium battery doesn't just set fire, it explodes. There's a steam buildup and combustion. Here's actually what happened. That was partly the case. But so this is a chess move by Israel. It's so chess and checkers. I'm not a chess guy. I never have been. I never learned the game. My son loves chess. He does chess club at school. He's very good. When he first started playing, and by the way, if you're a new dad, this is advice to you. When your kids start playing strategic games, beat the snot out of them regularly early on, and then they're not going to want to play with you because eventually they're going to get better than you, and they're going to have no desire to play with you, beat your butt, and hold it over your head. Beat them early, beat them often, and then they'll go find someone else to challenge chess. So that's what I did with my kid when he was first starting out. I just regularly beat him, and then, of course, my wife started to play with him, and she had to go buy a book and learn chess maneuvers. Checkers is pretty straightforward. I'm a checkers guy. I don't play poker. I'll play chess. I'm just not good at it, and I know I'm not good at it. I didn't even know how to play chess until I was like 45 years old. When my kids started playing, I was like, quick, I got to figure something out. So nonetheless, I digress. In chess, you tend to plan multiple moves ahead, not necessarily in checkers. You have ideas. You have different maneuvers. You have different patterns and the flow in chess based on how the other player's playing. You have strategies, and you want to be several steps ahead. So let's rewind. Months ago, Israel signaled that it was able to get into the cell phone network of Hezbollah, and they publicly leaked that information. The head of Hezbollah then issued an edict. No more cell phone communications. Israel's on to us. So the head of Hezbollah moved to pagers. Thousands of pagers. They ordered the pagers from Taiwan. Israel intercepted, we don't know where, we assume during the shipping process. Israel intercepted the order of pagers and injected a liquid explosive into the pagers that dries into crystal form. It's the same explosive that one of the plane bombers tried to bring down, Al-Qaeda bombers tried to bring down a jet. It's one of the reasons we're not allowed to have liquids of more than 3 ounces on planes these days. Even though at this point the X-ray machines can detect it, the TSA wants a big bailout from the government. That's the only way they'll change us being able to take our full-size shampoo bottles on the plane again. So Israel injected it. It dried into crystal form. And here's the thing. When this particular explosive gets hot to a certain temperature, it blows up. So the pagers got to Hezbollah. And by the way, today the walkie-talkies are blowing up. Yesterday it was the pagers. Today it's the walkie-talkies, the two-way radios. So the pagers get distributed. What I was told by someone familiar with the situation yesterday is that Israel became concerned that they had been discovered yesterday. They were just into distribution. They had distributed about 4,000 to 5,000 of them. They were concerned that it was going to be discovered that Israel had compromised the pagers. So at 3:30 p.m. Beirut time yesterday, Israel sent a signal to all of the phones. And all of the phones, or all the pagers rather, and all the pagers exploded. 4,000 or so pagers exploded, killing just over a dozen members of Hezbollah. So here's how the explosion worked. The pagers all got a page. So if the Hamas operative was quick and grabbed his pager and held it up to see what the text message said, the explosion rendered him blind, if not dead. If the Hezbollah operative was slow and grabbed his pager, it blew his hand off. He either bled to death, or was maimed. If the Hezbollah operative was too slow, he got neutered. Because where do you keep your pager? By the way, as an aside, my kids are thoroughly impressed with the Israelis, but I had to explain to my 15-year-old what a pager was. So Israel either blinded, blew off a hand, blew off testicles, or killed over 4,000 to 5,000 members of Hezbollah. Now, here's the additional brilliance of the situation. Is, in addition, what Israel had now is a pattern map. Every one of those explosions of every one of those pagers was tied to someone working with Hezbollah. It was very interesting. A Norwegian reporter yesterday was outraged that one of his friends from Lebanon, his backpack blew up with a pager inside. How dare Israel target random Lebanese? And the community notes on Twitter were hysterical for this reporter that, dude, your friend's a terrorist. Did you not know? Israel now has this map. Israel now knows who all the terrorists are, where they are, what level of damage was done to them. And then today, Israel fired up the signal again and blew up the walkie-talkies, the two-way radios. All over Lebanon today, walkie-talkies, two-way radios are blowing up. Many of those aren't carried on people's hands. They're on their bikes. They're in their cars and motorcycles around Lebanon incinerated today with two-way radios in them. It's pretty impressive if you ask me. It's an incredible operation. Israel did a remarkable good job. Side note, and I think you have to note as a side note here, what a remarkable intelligence failure led to October 7th, 2023. The Israeli defense and intelligence operations got lazy and went to sleep. And Hamas was able to invade on October 7th, killing over 1,200 Israeli citizens. Israel got lazy and started relying on electronic surveillance, not human intelligence and human surveillance. And the electronic surveillance could not detect the Hamas parachutists flying across the fence. Human surveillance could have. The intelligence officials have had to wake back up after October 7th, and I don't think they'll go back to sleep after this. They will not rest on their laurels. There is smoke rising in various parts of Lebanon as it appears now thousands of Hezbollah-linked walkie-talkies have blown up simultaneously around the country. This is happening right now. I'm watching live video around Lebanon as these walkie-talkies began blowing up today. There's something related here that we need to talk about. This is an impressive operation. Israel's just, books are going to be written about this. Movies are going to be made about this. It was impressive. But there are two things I want to note. One is this is the most precisely targeted operation against an enemy in war ever. And there are still anti-Semites screaming how awful this was, how terrible this was, how dastardly Israel was, that this is a war crime. These people just hate Jews. There is no civilian fallout from this. The explosions were small and contained to the Hezbollah terrorists. Yes, some children of these terrorists did get injured, but very few. Had Israel launched precision-guided missiles, more innocent civilians would have died. This was extremely precision-targeted, extremely contained, and the anti-Semites are still furious because it's the Jews that did it, and that's what it's about. They hate the Jews. They don't just hate Israel, they hate the Jews. And they hold them to a double standard, demanding of something that they would demand from no one else. What they do not want is for the Jews to be able to defend themselves. They wish the Jews dead, and they're upset that instead the terrorists who want to kill the Jews are the ones who died. The other thing that must be said is China. We should be looking at this. Look what Israel was able to do by compromising pagers and walkie-talkies from Hezbollah. China makes a lot of chips that are in American products related to our infrastructure. In fact, at the gathering back in August, I had two guys on stage with me who were talking about the ports in this country. Many of them use shipping cranes that we have discovered actually transmit data that they pull from the ships by wireless electronic means and transmit it to China. They also observe and capture data of what's going in and out of our ports. A lot of the shipping containers that are out there now have NFC chips. It's like Apple Pay, wireless remote identifiers. So as the cargo is unloaded, the NFC chip relays information as to what's in the cargo, and these cranes are relaying that information back to China already. This is happening. In fact, Joe Biden has signed an executive order demanding that every single one of these cranes be replaced by the end of the year. The only port in the United States that was not affected is the port of Savannah in Georgia, because it had upgraded its cranes some time ago and chose not to use this Chinese company for its cranes. Every other port in the United States compromised, and they're having to replace the cranes. This is the sort of stuff China's doing. Think about the routers. Think about the computer hardware. Think about the manufacturing processes for so many electronic devices. We don't have to worry about terrorists doing this sort of thing in the United States, but we have to worry about China. This is another indication that our infrastructure in this country is probably not secure, and the governors of the several states would be wise to order infrastructure stress tests in every state in the union to make sure that we're not going to be compromised by Chinese technology doing something like what just happened in Lebanon. It's a huge issue. We can learn from this, from what our ally did to the bad guys, and note that the bad guys would want to do this for us. We got to take this stuff seriously. The bad guys, they mean us harm. And in meaning us harm, they've compromised our infrastructure, and we've let them do it. And now we have time, but the clock is running down. The clock is running out. We've got time to unwind China from our infrastructure, and we better act really fast on this, because we're seeing what can happen when your entire communications array is so comprehensively sabotaged. Israel months ago let it be known they had access to the cell phone network of Hezbollah, so they switched to pagers and walkie-talkies. Israel compromised the pagers and walkie-talkies, and today everything went boom. They have neutered, literally, Hezbollah terrorists. Good for Israel. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program. Y'all, I have to say, the memes about Hezbollah are some of the funniest I've seen in a long time. I'm in a great group chat with some friends. Some of them I can't recount. But feeling a vibration in their pants. This is the Venn diagram. Hezbollah seen a goat and a Hezbollah pager. Another one. It's another Venn diagram. You know the Venn diagram where the overlapping circles. In the middle is my pager, and on one side is my pager blowing up, and on one side is your mom, and on the other side is Israel. Perhaps my favorite is Hezbollah this morning is a picture of an Almond Joy bar, and Hezbollah this afternoon a picture of a Mounds bar. Almond Joy got nuts, Mounds don't. Oh, and then there's the other one. This is the other Venn diagram. Having, well, I can't really say that one on the radio. I'll just say, let's say, lacking testicular fortitude is the center of the Venn diagram. On one side, Hezbollah. On the other side is white dudes for Kamala Harris. These are well done. These are all well done. Yes, having sister. Also, I love the ones with the pager, and the message on the pager is 72 virgins. Marked safe from the Jews, castrating me today. This is just well done. The memification of Hezbollah. But you know, there are people upset about it. They're worried about the ethics of it. The ethics of it. They didn't separate between the political wing of Hezbollah and the military wing of Hezbollah. They're a terrorist organization. They can go boom. Essentially, Israel is held to a standard no other nation on planet Earth is held to when it comes to defending themselves and fighting the bad guys. They just did one of the most brilliant, strategic, precisely targeted attacks ever to happen in the history of planet Earth. And the anti-Semites are furious about it because the Jews pulled off something and got the bad guys. Now, I want to recommend to you Americans for Prosperity. Around the country, AFP has chapters. And with those chapters, Americans for Prosperity teaches you how to be a grassroots operative and a conservative organizer. They're the largest leading grassroots coalition in the country. Americans for Prosperity can teach you how to knock on your neighbor's door and make a persuasive case for common sense conservative reform. They can teach you how to go to your local government or your state government and engage on the big issues of the day and educate them on common sense conservative solutions for schools and families and small businesses and deregulation. All you have to do is go to americansforprosperity.org/volunteer today. They've got chapters in just about every single state. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Go check them out with Americans for Prosperity. Become engaged with Americans for Prosperity. Learn to be an effective conservative advocate for common sense conservative reform. americansforprosperity.org/volunteer. Go sign up with them today. Welcome back. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program. Had we not had the latest bombings from and the blow-ups of the pagers and stuff, I might have started here today. But, well, with all the news out of Israel, and I wanted to now more thoroughly explain to you how they were able to pull it off, I started there. And I didn't even get into this yesterday because it was so fast-paced. There was so much breaking news. But it's probably time, in light of everything else that's happened, that have a little bit of this discussion here, because I actually am concerned about it. 162 years ago tonight, 22,727 Americans would be wounded, dead, or missing on the battlefield at Antietam, the bloodiest day in American history. More Americans died on this day 162 years ago than at any other time in history and any other war in history. The Battle of Antietam started the 75 years to the day after the Constitution was signed. Yesterday was Constitution Day. The Battle of Antietam started that afternoon and played out through sunset tonight. It was the Union's best chance to stop Robert E. Lee, and McClellan was not a great general, and he failed, ultimately leading Abraham Lincoln to write his very famous letter to General McClellan, "If you're not using the army, could I borrow it?" 162 years after the Battle of Antietam, we are a few days removed from the second assassination attempt on Donald Trump. And Democrats and Comcast's own MSNBC have gone from "we need to temper our rhetoric, this is crazy," to "well, his skirt was so short, he deserved it." Our foreign adversaries have given up trying to put us on the ash heap of history, and they are instead hoping to manufacture the circumstances by which we engage in fratricide and destroy ourselves, since they can't do it. And there are Americans on the left and the right willing to oblige. Yesterday, I played a clip from CNN and my friend Anna Navarro, and I pointed out that I disagree with her, but I consider her a friend. And I got multiple emails from people, one of whom said, I could never be trusted again because I am friends with someone like that. Literally, that was what the email said. I could never be trusted again because I am friends with someone like that. I guess I could lie and say I'm not friends, because you would be amazed at the number of people on the left and the right in the media who actually do get along fabulously together, are great friends, but pretend not to be and never mention it. I try not to keep things from y'all. A lot of the people that you listen to and think are like the truth tellers du jour, they're friends with people on the left and the far left, have great times with them, but they don't tell you, so you think, oh, they're one of us, and they clearly would never have a friend on the left. I try to be as transparent with you guys as possible about my entire life. I try not to keep things from you unless there's an absolute reason. For example, my wife said, don't say anything on the radio about this or whatnot. Otherwise, I live very transparently with you. What is striking to me, though, are the number of people who are very insistent on the left and the right, by the way, because it's also on the left, that you cannot be friends with someone if you disagree with them on politics. I actually think those are the times you should be friends with people. Now, you're not going to be friends with everyone. There are lots of people who do not like me, including some listening right now. There are people that I frankly do not care for, do not like, and do not want to be in a room with. But politics is not really the dividing line for me, nor should it be for you. And what our enemies abroad want is for it to be a dividing line, because as politics has taken over greater and greater spheres in our life, and politics has become a religion for many on the left and the right, your political views and engagement actually are deciding and shaping your friendship. What you're doing is you are disengaged more and more from your actual community. You've built a community online that's just like you, echoes you, parrots you, mimics you, thinks just like you. And you know less and less, fewer and fewer people on the other side who have a different worldview than you. There are actually people on the left and the right who hate this country. You can get a sense of it, frankly, I think, by watching some of the Tucker Carlson interviews where he does propaganda for Russia and has on people who want to revise world history to make the Nazis the good guys and Winston Churchill the bad guy. There are people on the left and the right who wish to undermine the legitimacy of this country. I know people on the right, and I'm going to start with people on the right because I think y'all don't realize this is a thing, even though it is. There are people on the right who believe that this country is vile, corrupt, and sinful and needs to burn. And they wish to undermine the politics of this country because they do hope that there will be some sort of great upheaval in this country, and they are convinced that by God's help, they will be in the right and they will be on the top when that upheaval comes, and they can impose a Christian nationalism on this country where all the pagans get punished and all the people who are right with God get to rule the country. I know people who have embraced that philosophy, who are ready for this country to come undone so it can be remade in their image. And I know people on the left who hate this country. They think it is systemically racist. They think it is vile. They think that this country needs to burn and the world would be better off without them. And I got to tell you, I'm not friends with anyone, to my knowledge, on either side where you hear that. But it's problematic for me. It's deeply problematic for me that there are people with those worldviews. But there are also people that I know who really passionately like the Democrats and hate the Republicans and think the Republicans are out of their minds. And I can be friends with people who believe those things because they love the country and they just actually think democratic ideas are better for the country. I vehemently disagree with them. But I'm friends with them. And I think you should be too. You should find a way to be friends with people who disagree with you, and then you might be able to persuade them. Now, these people, I don't actually engage in politics with them. We don't talk about politics. Anna Navarro, it's a great example. Somebody yesterday said, well, you know, she's a communist. I said, if you knew anything about who she's married to, you couldn't actually say she's a communist. You have the luxury of not actually knowing her to be able to say that. You believe it based on what she says in TV, your impressions of what she says and who she hangs out with. But if you knew her story, knew her background, knew who she's married to, you would realize she's no friend of communists. Now, I'm not here to persuade you, and I'm not going to entertain your arguments to me, but what about this in email and whatnot? I'm just here to tell you, I know this person and you don't, and your impression of this person comes from television. I know a more complicated, nuanced person. The fact that anyone would email me and say I can't be authentically conservative by having someone like that in my circle of friends actually is a damning indictment on you and your character when my God, the God of all creation, tells me to love my neighbor. And he himself hung out with people that the religious leaders of the day said were detestable people. How dare you hang out with them? I'm not Jesus Christ, but I try to model my life as best I can after him, continuously failing, but trying. The fact that we are at this point, however, in this country, where people can decide this person can't be trusted because they're friends with this person I don't like, is actually exactly where our enemies wish us to be. And to my friends on the left, I don't think you realize you're playing into their hands. I want to play you a couple of pieces. This is from Elliot Williams. He's on CNN talking about the rhetoric.
On this network, plenty of times Donald Trump needs to rein in his rhetoric. But I think we have to back off. Democrats have to back off the whole consequences and let everybody know, look, hey, guess what happens? We'll have lower tax rates if he wins. We disagree with that. Let's run the campaign on that.
But what I'm struck by on the defense of this, or I guess on the attack on Democrats on this threat to democracy stuff, is that, for instance, Trump has not committed to accepting the results of the election, right? That sounds to me like a threat to democracy, and I don't think it's that unfair to question someone's commitment to democracy if they're saying that they can't commit to the results of election.
Okay, here's the problem with Elliot Williams saying that. Stacey Abrams, to this day, insists she won 2018, and Elliot Williams will not call Stacey Abrams a threat to democracy. Many Democrats to this day believe that George Bush stole the 2000 election, and no Democrat is shunned by the media or fellow Democrats for saying that. Hillary Clinton has multiple times said that Donald Trump stole the election in 2016 from her. And she's not a pariah on the Democratic side. Hillary Clinton has also said, as did Karine Jean-Pierre, the White House press secretary, that Stacey Abrams had it stolen from her in 2016. And yet they're in leadership positions in the Democratic Party. So if you're going to say Donald Trump's a threat to democracy because he's not willing to accept the results of the election, you've got to do that about your own side to be consistent, except you're not. So you actually are making a partisan point. You are dividing based on that because you're not treating your side equally. It continues to be one of the issues. Like, for example, here again, this is the co-chair for the Kamala Harris campaign on CNN.
Well, I think that he has been the most inflammatory person, and in fact, Democratic rhetoric has not escalated in any way in recent months, hasn't escalated in any way. He has always been a threat to democracy. We've always said that. After all, this is the man who incited the riots on January 6th, who continued to cozy up to white supremacists and other racist hate groups. He is being very hypocritical, and he's trying to really turn the page away from his terrible performance at the debate and all of the things that are coming out now with his failures on IVF, his failures when it comes to coming up with any type of a plan.
Now, first of all, so she lies about the IVF. She ties him to the white supremacists. They're doubling down on this. B-word got what he deserved. That's what's happening. The Democrats have gone from we need to have a talk about rhetoric to he got what he deserved. And look at his rhetoric. How dare you call us out on your rhetoric? So what the Democrats have decided to do now is the Democrats have decided that they're going to allow Donald Trump to set their standards of behavior. You got that? When they say, well, look at all these terrible things, Donald Trump, how dare you call me out on my concerns? Look at all the terrible things Donald Trump has done. They're allowing Donald Trump now, they're excusing their behavior by saying, well, look at what Donald Trump has done. In other words, they can't be held accountable for themselves because of Donald Trump. If he gets to say these outlandish things that we don't like, well, then we get to say these outlandish things he doesn't like. Both sides are beginning to do this. They're allowing the other side to define them. We are being catechized by what we surround ourselves with. We're surrounding ourselves with the political rhetoric of both sides, and everyone is becoming more and more guilty of twisting politics into every aspect of their lives. It's exactly what the enemies of this country want us to do. The enemies of this country want us to turn on each other, and they're hoping to spark another civil war. 162 days after the bloodiest day in American history, Americans are at each other's throats. And do you know really why it is? Because we've traded a real religion for a false one. We've traded God for government. And we've decided we will make gods of ourselves. We shall be as gods. And we will use government to implement divine power, punishing the heretics and rewarding the true believers on both sides. The only way to fix the problems we have right now is to gut the government. And too many people on both sides have decided they want to wield the power of government as a cudgel against their enemies. And that continues to have us play into the hands of our enemies. 75 years to the day after our founders sat in Philadelphia and signed the Constitution, this country began spilling blood at Antietam because of the original sin of this country. And that sin was washed away with blood on a battlefield. That today, the day after that fight began, saw 27,272 Americans dead, wounded, or missing. And 162 years to the day, we're getting ready to turn on each other again because we simply cannot let it go. We cannot forgive, and we are allowing the other side to set the parameters of our own behavior when deep down I think we all know that we are behaving on both sides far too outlandishly. We're just unwilling to stop unless the other side stops first, and no one is ever going to stop themselves without the other side stopping first, which means neither side is ever going to stop. It's just going to keep getting worse. Unless we remember to love our neighbor. Now, I got to tell you, I love Vision Computer. Vision Computers builds computers for you. They also service those computers. You can go to visioncomputers.com today or call them at 404-COMPUTE. Let them build a computer for you. Let them be your tech support. If you've already got a computer, Vision can be your tech support for just $179 a year for your home or your office, so you don't have to have the in-house IT support. What you can do is you call Vision for $179. They take over your tech support for you. You get a special phone number. You call them 15 seconds or less. You get the answer to what's ailing your computer. You got a question. You don't know how to do something. They answer it. Email support, printer support. They make it super efficient. They save you money because you do not have to have the in-house IT guy at your company. You can just call Vision. They'll do your email support. They'll do your printer support. Anyone nationwide can do this for your home, for your office. You got a kid going off to college, need a computer. Vision Computer can build them the computer and save them money. 404-COMPUTE, 404-COMPUTE, 404-COMPUTE. That's their number. Any one of you nationwide, give them a call. If you call them at 404-COMPUTE and you tell them Eric Erickson referred you, you're going to save even more money. You can also go to visioncomputers.com. And yes, I have a computer from Vision Computers. It is my son's gaming PC. We built it with them. And nope, I have not had to do a single bit of tech support for my kid since. He calls Vision, they answer in 15 seconds or less, and they can navigate my 15-year-old through how to do whatever he needs to do on his computer. They can do the same for you. Call them at 404-COMPUTE today. Hello there. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here. This hour of the program brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're buying a building, need a heavy equipment loan, buying a franchise, those sorts of things, well, First Liberty can help you. First Liberty Building and Loan. They can help any business in the United States. They've been doing this since the 90s. The Frost family makes their own decisions. Reach out to them, firstlibertyga.com, firstlibertyga.com. Tell them I sent you. See if they're fit for you. See if you're fit for them. I have to make a point that's going to make some of you mad. So if you'll recall, J.D. Vance mentioned that a constituent of his in Springfield, Ohio, said she believed her cat, it was one of the cats that was taken and eaten by the Haitians. So a Wall Street Journal reporter showed up at the lady's home to ask her about the Haitians eating her cat. It turns out the cat had run away, but had returned. And the cat was with her when the reporter was there, and the woman said she was very sorry. She just believed the Haitians had taken her cat and eaten it, but it hadn't thus far. We have seen a video of some guys from Africa in Dayton, Ohio, barbecuing cat. We have seen a crazy American woman in Canton, Ohio, killing a cat and eating it. We have seen no evidence whatsoever of anyone in Springfield, Ohio, rather, having their pets stolen and eaten by the Haitians. And so people keep trying to move the goalposts just like the left does and say, well, what about this? What about this? Well, we have a video of someone saying they've heard about it happening, but no one's actually produced evidence in Springfield, Ohio, that this is actually happening. Of all the things the GOP could be closing their campaign on, we've chosen a lie about stolen cats instead of the truth about an overwhelmed system. Crazy.